Welcome back to Hexton Studios. We're here with Scott Dolson from Evervest Home Buyers. And today we're going to talk about real estate development, acquisition, and what Scott can offer folks out there looking for a new home with properly renovated and properly managed at a fair price. So Scott, welcome. Thank you so much for coming in. We've been excited to have you here.
I appreciate you inviting me. That's great. Yeah.
Well, there's so much going on in the real estate market, and it seems as a buyer, it's tricky.
It can be, depending on your situation. Absolutely. Yeah.
So before we get into details about services and what Evervest Home Buyers can do for their clients, let's talk about you, if that's okay.
Sure.
So tell me about Scott Dolson and how did Evervest, and what Evervest, which is an interesting name.
It is, yeah. There's not really any background to Evervest. It was just a name we kind of came up with. But yeah, I mean, we've been in business quite some time. I have a business partner. We've been, to be honest with you, we started when we were teenagers, best friends.
Oh.
And worked for a company that was like a landscape building decks company, and we did that for quite a few years, and then it's just kind of progressed through there. So we went from there to like room additions, built finished basements out in West County. Tried our hand at a spec home, didn't really like building spec homes. But the house buying process probably started in like the mid-90s, right around there. So we've bought a lot of homes since the mid-90s, and our focus is basically, at this point, buying, fixing up, and selling. We will hold rentals if the house is set up to do that. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're at now.
So you acquire, hold, create assets, and it's nice to know that you have experience in more than just flipping a house.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, my background is mostly construction. So like I walk through a house when a person calls me and has me come over to their house. I mean, I'm fully aware of what I'm looking at in the home, as opposed to, some people look at it and they're maybe more on the salesy side.
Yeah.
My angle is more, I know the home. I'm more interested in the actual house, not necessarily whether the house is clean or not clean, or cluttered or not cluttered. The house itself is what I'm interested in looking at. So
would you say that separates you from the traditional real estate firm or real estate business that does acquisition? Would you say you're more acquisition that does real estate?
I wouldn't say all my competition, but I would say a lot of it. Yeah. I mean, I definitely have more of a construction background than I would say majority of my competition. Not to say they do rehab homes, but I mean, I've been doing it. I don't want to throw out how long, let's say a few decades.
Yeah, a few.
Yeah.
So tell me about your family.
Okay. Well, I've been in St. Louis, grew up in St. Louis, currently married to a beautiful, wonderful wife. And then I have 3 awesome children. So, life's good.
So are your children involved in the business?
No, they're not.
No.
So I have one that's 25. He's involved in more of the listing side of real estate, not necessarily the rehab, buy, fix, up, sell side of it. And then I have twins that are still in high school. They're 15. So, yeah, they help me a little bit, but yeah, they're not really involved.
They got life to do right now. They got life stuff.
That's right.
Yeah, it's later on when you give all that up.
Right.
So what separates Evervest from the competition? Do you have a spiel that you speak about the company with new clients, maybe on an acquisition? And what separates you from the crooks?
Oh, I don't know if anything specific. I mean, I'm a very direct person. I find myself to be a very honest person. I don't know if my competition is or isn't, but from my perspective, I just try to, be fair to people, give a fair price to them, something that'll, make sense for us also. So.
And it sounds that's hard to do in the marketplace, like because of those that are out there that are not doing that.
I would say sometimes when I show up at the door, people have a preconceived perception of what I'm going to try to do, or I'm going to try to steal the house. And kind of like I referenced a little bit earlier, I'm not looking to steal the house. I just, if the house needs a lot of work, I have to factor that in
Sure.
to my price to be able to buy the home. I'm always trying to look for a win-win. Like I can get a price that makes sense to you and get the house at a price that'll make sense to us to take it on. Because obviously we're going to have to put money and effort and time into it to do that. So,
it's nice to hear you say the importance of it being mutually beneficial.
Oh yeah, it absolutely has to be.
And well, for you and for Evervest Home Buyers,
Sure.
but what we see in the marketplace is what people fear is that that's not the goal. And it's nice to hear you not only say that, but to carry the energy of it, that you believe and you walk that.
Well,
You know?
I mean, a lot of these people have owned these homes for 10, 20, 30 years. I mean, they expect to get whatever they can out of the home.
For sure.
Obviously, if they haven't done anything to the home in 30 years, the offer is going to have to reflect the fact that it needs some work.
Yeah.
Most of the people, after we buy, fix up, and sell it, I mean, the people that are buying it want a house that's been, renovated and is going to be mostly maintenance free, and, they're not going to step into a bunch of headaches. So, yeah.
When it sounds to me, I feel like you have a really honest delivery. You have really great energy about you. So what is it that you can tell people that to be aware of, that, so that they can caution themselves from rehabs and from quick, what do you call, paint and carpet?
Yeah, I mean, there's people, obviously, I don't know if I'm cautioning them, but the people that buy, for instance, I would. It's like the buyer who wants to kind of buy it, and instead of, maybe changing out the windows or redoing the kitchen or the bath, it's the person that wants to come in, paint it, put in new carpets, and then sell it. Even if there was termite damage, for instance, under the subfloor or something like that. I think one of the big things that differentiates me is, I consider myself a little bit more old school, being as I've been doing this a few years.
A couple decades.
I'm going to keep coming back to that. So our offers are just, like, if I make you an offer, it's going to be all the terms we agree about, and you can basically just count on that for the closing. A lot of my competition at this point in time, not all, but a lot of them, are writing contracts that are contingent on some other factors. And it's confusing to the homeowner sometimes because they hear cash offer and they think it's just set in stone that they're going to close. And a cash offer with, say, an inspection contingency is still contingent, which basically means they're going to do inspections and everybody has to agree to those inspections before they proceed to the closing. And that can be used to renegotiate whatever price would you originally agreed upon. So someone might think, for instance, I'll just throw out a number. They might think they're getting $200,000 for their house. And then after the inspections, they might say, well, we didn't expect to have to fix this too. So therefore, we can't pay you $200 anymore. We're going to pay you $190, $180, whatever the number is.
Sure.
From my perspective, I'm going to offer you, my offer is always a cash offer. And really all that means is you don't have to worry about financing contingencies or anything like that. I'm going to buy it as is. I'm not going to ask you to make any repairs, offer any inspections. I am a licensed real estate broker, but there's no commissions involved. If there's stuff in the house, whether it's a lot or a little, you can leave it. You don't have to take it out. You don't have to clean the house out. And we walk you through the process. So the process is made to be as easy as possible.
Sure.
And you can count on the sale. And then move on to wherever or whatever you need to do after that, whether it's moving into a new home, selling an inherited home, selling a house that's, might have had fire damage. I don't know, it could be anything. But at the end of the day, if you have a contract from us, it's going to close. Yeah.
That's a great feeling.
Yeah.
Especially in that industry.
Yeah.
Because it's a depending on the levels of rates and availability of marketable properties and the changes in the market, and with all the folks that are out, like you said, flipping them just to create the highest profit margin versus creating a home and an environment that welcomes the new owner. And it sounds to me like what's more important to you is not the aesthetic flip. What's more important is the experience, and that you're creating an experience for your buyers.
I am. I hope so. I mean, I want to give somebody a house that they're, comfortable with, and then, in 6 months they're not saying to their friend, "Hey, this guy did a poor job." I want them to be happy with their house. I'm obviously in this business to make I got to pay my bills like everybody else does, but again, it's got to make sense for both parties, and then when I sell it, it's got to make sense for both parties, right?
Fair and just on both ends.
Absolutely.
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be in business a long time and keep a good name if you don't do that.
No, I completely agree with that, and it makes a big difference. I think the hope that we can provide whoever takes a minute to watch this video is that they can feel safe.
Yeah.
And I think that's a hard ride. That's hard to do in that industry because it doesn't always feel safe.
Right.
But it sounds to me like what's more important to you is that they do. They feel safe that their deal is fair. They feel safe that they're in a home that is not going to turn into disrepair or a problem. Because a lot of home buying is buying a problem.
It can be. Yeah. New or old, to be honest with you. Even if you were to buy a brand new house, anybody that's been in the business could still walk through a brand new house and find there's always some problem, right? But the goal is to fix absolutely everything you can. Yeah.
It's amazing. I knew we would be excited to have this conversation anyway, because you're a tremendous, your experience for one, gives me comfort for not only if I were out looking for a home, but for those that are out there looking for a home.
Yeah.
That there's a comfort, that they can feel safe, that they have a good product, and you stand behind it. And the decades or so of experience that have built this opportunity for you to grow in the community, to grow in the business.
Right.
And you're still in business with your best friend. That says a lot about your character as well. I don't know if anybody would say that. But maintaining a friendship, an elongated friendship, along with being co-owners or co-partners in a business, that doesn't happen all that often.
No, it doesn't. It can be stressful at times.
Sure.
The market shifts. We all know that in the past, the economy's had its ups and downs, and getting through that stuff, it can put stress on relationships. But we're pretty solid. So
now, Hexon obviously offers SEO, marketing, services, video. It's a complex offering to help businesses find their way to the top of the list. So what we've done is evaluated a set of very popular questions, frequently asked questions, that generally people looking for products that you offer would ask. So what we'll do now is we're gonna knock out some of those questions so we can answer them before the folks call. You can speed the process up.
Sure.
All right. No, why do people sell houses as is?
Okay. Good question. And there's a lot of different situations. People sell homes in their as-is condition for a multitude of reasons. It could be anything from an inherited home, a home that hadn't been updated in 30 years. Could be a hoarder home. Could have had a fire. I could go on and on. Or they're just looking for simplicity or, something to go quicker. It would be a short answer. That's mainly why people sell in an as-is shape. They may not want to fix it up. They may want to not have to worry about contingencies like whether someone can get financing. They may not want to clean it out. They may not want to make the fix-its. They may not want to go through the traditional home sale where they have to go through all the inspections and worry about the time frames. And a lot of times in those time frames, you could go, if you had a closings that's set to close 30, 45 days out, financing can fall through at the last minute.
Yeah.
And you're back starting at square one, having to renegotiate inspection fix-its, with the homeowner, and it can fall through, or you have to pay money or fix things. So those are some of the reasons why somebody might, look for more of an as-is type situation.
How can I sell my home quickly?
Sell it quick? You can call me. No, I mean, our offers are going to be a cash offer. I'm going to buy it as is. I'm not going to ask you to make any repairs, offer any inspections. You can leave in the house what you want to leave, take what you want to take. You don't have to make any repairs. There's no real estate fees. I am a licensed real estate broker here in Missouri, but there's no fees. And our financing has already been set in stone. So we're already set to close. So as long as I can get clear title, in other words, there's no problems with the title work, I can close as quick as 7 days. So I don't know how quick a person would want to close, but it can go 7 days, 30 days. If they wanted to close in 3 months, as long as I know it's in the pipeline and we being the seller and us have an agreement in terms as far as how much, when, and all that, they can, take it to the bank that it's going to close on that day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can you negotiate an as-is home?
You can prior to the contract. So prior to, us agreeing on terms, I'm obviously going to come out, take a look at the house, if you call and ask me to, or submit something online. But I'll give you an offer, and it'll be, the terms. It's going to be cash. It's going to be as is, no repairs, no inspections. You don't have to pay any real estate fees. But as far as the negotiation, prior to whether you wanted to stay in your house, like maybe you want to sell it to us, and ahead of time, and then stay in the house for 3 weeks, a month prior to. As long as we know ahead before everything's agreed to, yeah, it's perfectly, you can negotiate anything. If I give you an offer and you want to negotiate it way over my offer and it doesn't make sense, I'm obviously probably not going to agree to that, but we can agree to disagree and move on. But usually when I go out and talk to somebody, I also try to give them some input as far as if I see things. So it can be educational too anyway. So hopefully it's not a loss of their time. Yeah.
Is it better to fix up a house or sell as is?
Well, depends on the situation. And if you have a house that's in great shape, it's market ready, been updated, or sometimes even if they're just livable and they're saleable, you're going to make your most money typically, listing it with a realtor and selling it that way. However, if there's work that needs to be done, if you want to sell it quick, you don't want to go through all the headaches, don't want to clean it out, I'm obviously a much better answer than your traditional sale. It all depends on the situation mostly, but yeah.
What do I do with the house if I can't sell it?
If you can't sell it, I guess it would depend on what you mean by can't sell it. If you can't sell it because of a title issue, I would say probably talk to an attorney or a title company. I can't fix that. If you get a hold of me, I do have a contact with a great title company that I can use that if I have something, an offer and a contract with somebody, and I've had this happen a lot of times. So if I have it under contract and we run into a speed bump, they're going to work their hardest to try to figure that out and clean it, clean up the title, at which point in time, once it's clean, I can buy it. If you can't sell it just because it's overpriced, or if there's had a fire, or it's a hoarder home, or it's not updated, that's my business, so I can help you with that. Just call me, and to be honest with you, there's no reason. Everything's confidential. I'm just going to come in. I'm going to look at the actual house. I'm going to get a feel for what I can do with that house, whether it's fix it up and sell it, fix it up and rent it, whatever the case may be. And at that point, we'll move forward. There's not a lot of homes that I'm not interested in buying. There's very, very few. I've had a couple. I've had one that was on the edge of wasn't really a cliff, but the ground was eroding out from under it, and it was pretty clear that the house was going to fall down the hill in a very short period of time. I wasn't interested in that one, but overall, there's not many homes that I wouldn't buy.
How does it work to sell a home as is?
Well, it would start by either calling or submitting something online to me. And I'll come out personally. I'll take a look at the home. I'm going to walk through. The walkthrough usually takes about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, depending on the number of questions a person might have for me. And in that time, sometimes I can make an offer right there on the spot. Sometimes I need to sharpen my pencil and get a better feel for what a couple things may cost to fix it up. But and then I make an offer, and our offers are, they're made to be very simple for the homeowner. So our offer, it's not contingent on financing, so it's a cash offer. We're going to buy it as is. We're not going to ask you to make any repairs, offer any inspections. You don't have to pay real estate fees. You're not going to have to pay the closing costs at the title company. My office will walk you through that whole process of the closing. We handle all the paperwork necessary. And really all you need to do after we agree on a price is tell me when you want to close. Is that 7 days? Is it 30 days? Is it 60 days? And, we move forward. We're set, and you can move on to whatever it is you want to do next. Moving into a new home, moving into whatever the next step is. If it's an inherited home, it might just be a bunch of siblings or, people that are inheriting a few bucks off the house, splitting it up and moving on and not having to fix it up to sell it. So, yeah.
What is my home worth when I sell it as is?
Well, that's a tough question. The real simple answer would be we're going to figure out what the house is worth. Let's say I come in and I totally tee it out. I fix it up real nice. And we're talking about a house that I'm going to buy, fix up, and sell. Okay, if I'm going to buy, fix up, and sell, that's different than a rental property, which we're going to look at it from more of a long-term view. But let's say I'm going to come in, buy, fix it up, and sell it. I'm going to take the actual after-repaired value, and then I'm going to multiply that by a factor that's going to take into account my holding costs. Obviously, when I sell it, I'll have to, pay some fees to do that. And I have to fix it up. So after I factor all those things into it, I come to a number. It's all numbers based at that point. It's not whether I like you or don't like you. And then that's the price. So it's pretty simple. Like I said, when I walk into the house, I'm going to look at it. I've been doing this for a long time, so I have a really good feel of what I'm looking at when I come in there. I'm not going to nitpick anything. If the house is dirty, cluttered, if it's got a lot of stuff in it, I don't care. There's no reason to feel embarrassed about any of it. I'm just looking at the house, to be honest.
What do I do with a house if I can't sell it?
What do you do with the house if you can't sell it? Well, for one, I guess give me a call. I'll come, I'll take a look at it, and I'm going to look at the house, get a feel for it, see what it needs to be, what needs to be done to get it fixed up. And when we get there, I'll make you an offer that, I'll make you an offer that's, a cash offer as is, and it's not going to have any contingencies, so there's no loopholes. It's just going to be a straight up, this is what I can pay for it. The only costs you're responsible for are going to be if you have any loans or liens on the house. I don't research that stuff. You'll have to pay that. We'll pay the normal closing costs at the title company. You won't have to pay any fees or anything like that. You don't have to clean it out. But yeah, the whole process is made to be as simple as possible. And it's got to be a win-win. So it's got to make sense for you financially. If not, just let me know it doesn't make sense. If we're close, I would appreciate you letting me know we're close, and maybe we can work something out. If I do get people sometimes that think their house is worth, the after repaired value, after someone comes in and totally fixes it up and their house hasn't been updated in 30, 40 years. I can't pay the after repaired value because the house isn't worth that.
Sure.
But I can pay a fair price for what the actual value of the house is at that point in time.
How do I sell a house for cash?
How do you sell a house for cash? You give me a call. I'll come out and take a look at it. I do a 30 to 45 minute walkthrough on the house. And that means I'm looking at the house. I'm also talking to you, trying to find out what you're trying to accomplish. Are you trying to get a quick close? Do you not want to worry about fixing anything? Whatever your situation is. Do you have 7 siblings that are scattered all over the country and one person here in town that is the sole contact? What are your goals? What are you hoping to get out of the house? And then, hopefully 99% of the time I'm willing to make an offer and can make an offer in the house. And a lot of times that makes sense for them. The price it's a fair price, but it's got to be a win-win. It's got to be a win for you. It's got to be a win for us, right? And I'm not going to get rich on any house, but I obviously do have to make a few dollars to keep the lights on. So
Understandably.
yeah.
And then what are the advantages of selling a house for cash?
The advantages for selling a house are, it's kind of a one-stop shop. So we're going to fix it up. So we're going to pay cash. There's not going to be any contingencies. A lot of my competition has contingencies on their contracts. Our contracts do not. It's just, I'm going to make you an offer, and that's all the terms we agree to is what we're going to have at the closing. So it's going to be a non-contingent offer, not contingent on inspections. So I'm going to buy it as is. I'm not going to do any more than that first walkthrough. I'm going to buy it as is. It's going to be a cash offer. There's not going to be any real estate fees. I am a licensed broker, but there's no fees involved. If the house has a lot of stuff in it, you take what's valuable to you. You can leave whatever you don't want to leave behind. The closing timeline can be 7 days. It could be 60 days, whatever works for you. So again, I'm trying to sell the house in a manner that's going to be best for you, that creates a win-win for both of us. Yeah.
Why is a cash offer on a St. Louis house better?
Better than a traditional sale?
Just in general, geographically, I guess.
Geographically. Well, I mean, to be honest, I don't know that an as-is offer geographically in St. Louis is going to be any better than an offer somewhere else. I would say that buying from someone that's local here in St. Louis, someone that you can meet and talk to and has lived here their whole life, is a little different than trying to sell to somebody over the phone that might be from, California or New York or wherever. And a lot of those people will make you an offer over the phone without ever even seeing the house. And those offers are contingent on inspections or whatever else. So in my view, those aren't actual offers. They're just somebody's throwing a number out there to get the house under contract so that they can start negotiating with you at that point. Mine is, you call me up, I come take a look at the house, I make you the offer, and it's a cash offer. We're buying as is, no repairs, no inspections. You don't have to clean it out if you don't want. So it's a straightforward, you can take it to the bank. If I tell you I'm going to pay a certain price and do a certain thing at a certain time, I mean, it sounds corny, but my word is my bond. So if I tell you I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I bought well over 1,000 houses at this point.
Wow.
And I have not closed on a house one time for anything that had to do with me. There's been a few that I haven't been able to, or haven't been able to get people to get the title company to clean up the title. They might have had like a title issue on their title. It's really our only one requirement is that when we buy the house is actually ours and doesn't have any title issues. But other than that, we're going to close. Yeah.
Should I sell my home in St. Louis for cash?
I would, obviously I'm a little biased, but that being said, if you have a beautiful home, and your house is fixed up, and I would say the traditional approach makes sense to list your home with a realtor. And if that's the route you want to go, because you're going to get the most money if your house is in the best shape. You can still call us. We do still have some realtors that work with us that are great partners of ours that do a phenomenal job, and I highly recommend them. So if you're not sure if you're as is or if you're a traditional sale, you can call me. We can talk on the phone. And usually after, a 5-10 minute conversation, I can tell you what avenue makes better sense for you. I'm going to shoot it to you straight. If you're not the traditional sale person, I can still, hook you up with someone that's going to do a great job for you. If not, I can come out and take a look at a house and I can give you a simple, way out of selling your home, that's going to make sense.
Can I sell my home if I owe back taxes?
Can you sell your home if you owe back taxes? Absolutely. Yeah. And it's kind of a tricky question because owing taxes is dealt differently depending where you're at. Just like even if you're in St. Louis County, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to go in depth in this. That being said, it is dealt differently with, like in St. Louis County, for instance, for the city, they have different processes. But yes, you can. So if you owe back taxes, even if your house in the city or in the county goes to auction and somebody buys it for the back taxes, there's a redemption period in there where you still can sell your home. You will have to pay interest to the person who bought it at the, didn't technically buy it, but they put down the money for the taxes at the auction. You'll have to end up paying them some interest, but yes, absolutely, we do it all the time. It makes much more sense than just losing your house.
Is there a fear for those that have lost their tax, what they owed in taxes to someone that purchased those taxes? Is there anything that can happen? Can they lose their home?
After the redemption period of that, they do, yes. The house will go to the person that put down the money. And again, if you're in St. Louis City, it's dealt differently. Don't quote me on this. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't think there's a redemption period in St. Louis City. Okay. So you do want to call someone like me to come out or sell your house traditionally, whatever your situation is, prior to that. Obviously, sooner than later in any of those situations, you definitely want to do that. I don't know people's financial situation as far as on their house, but most of the time you're going to do much better off if you just sell the home as opposed to let somebody buy the home for back taxes.
All right, which they don't, and that's the weird thing about back taxes, right? That you can end up owning the home just by acquiring the back taxes. You don't get a fair market value for your home.
No.
You're not going to get a cash offer. It's just you lose it.
Yeah. So in theory, if you were, like, say you're in St. Louis County and you owed $10,000 in back taxes, I don't know the value of the home, that would dictate how much you owe, but let's say you did. And you go the time frame, it goes up to auction, someone buys the back taxes, which basically means they pay off the $10,000. There's again, not a lawyer, but there's a 2-year redemption period from what I understand, where that person that bought it doesn't have actual ownership of it until after the 2 years. But once the 2 years goes by, at that point in time, they have to jockey around with some legal stuff with lawyers, but it becomes theirs. There's no proceeds that go to the original owner that owed the back taxes. Mm-hmm. That person just basically bought it for the $10,000, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Sell the home, pay off the back taxes,
right,
and make a few bucks.
Sure, that makes sense. Now, some people inherit real estate.
Absolutely.
Can you sell a house that's in probate?
Can you sell a house that's in probate? You can. There's a process that the probate situation is involved in. So after you acquire, most people are going to acquire an attorney. They're going to walk you through that process. I know that process, they determine the deceased, if they had credit, liabilities, all that stuff. They're going to appraise the home. And at a certain point in that process, the homeowner or the person that the personal representative can, at that point in time, sell the home, and the proceeds will get divided up to whoever's determined by the courts to be able to inherit. But I think all liabilities and debts and all that will get paid off out of that proceeds, along with anything else they owned prior to that.
Yeah, but they don't have to wait.
They don't have to wait. I will say probate's an interesting thing because it can be avoided, which a lot of people don't understand. I talk to friends all the time, and I ask them if they have things like a living trust, for instance. But let's be honest, putting a living trust together can be expensive sometimes. But if a person has, this is kind of an interesting thing. So And most people don't realize this. So if a person, let's say a person has a home, it's paid off, or maybe it's just got a lot of equity in it, but they don't have many other assets, okay? You can file what's called a beneficiary deed. It gets filed down, recorded down at the Recorder of Deeds office. When that person that owns that home passes away, if, like, let's say it's not, certain titles, if they pass away, it might go to their husband, if it's titled right. But let's say they're the sole person on title. Once they pass away, that beneficiary deed will kick into effect, and it can just automatically transfer that title.
Wow.
It skips probate.
Wow.
But if they don't do something like that or have a trust, then it's got to go through probate. And probate can take quite some time, 6 months, a year, depending on it. It could go up to 2 years sometimes. So, you want to do your housekeeping in that if you can.
Can I sell my house during foreclosure?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we've had it up to the day before the actual foreclosure date.
Oh, wow.
And we've been able to call and talk to the lawyers that are handling the foreclosure and getting them to put a stay because we were going to buy it and the person foreclosing was going to get paid off. So yeah, you can absolutely sell your home while you're in foreclosure. Yeah.
How does the process work when I'm selling my house to Evervest Home Buyers?
Well, it's actually really simple. So you're going to contact us, and we're out there. So you can either call us. Phone number is 314-730-0366. If you don't get us there, you can obviously get us online. We have a website. We have all kinds of multiple contact forms in there that you can get us. But after you do get a hold of us, you're going to call or contact. You're going to talk to me. I'm going to come out and take a look at the house if you're allowing me to. And then the walkthrough is going to take 30 to 45 minutes unless you have a lot of questions or you decide you want to do something there on the spot. There's no pressure. I can call you later. You can get other offers if you want. My offer's almost always the highest, but I try my best to be there. And then after that walkthrough, I have decades of experience, so it's not an intrusive walkthrough. I'm not really looking at whether the house is dirty or whatever else. I'm just looking at the actual house, talking with you, trying to find out what your situation is, what you're trying to accomplish. You're trying to accomplish a quick close, one that's 30 days out. Do you want to stay in the house after the closing? And then I will make you an offer. And it's going to be a cash offer. I'm going to buy it as is. I'm not going to ask you to make any repairs, offer any inspections. There's no real estate fees. I'm a licensed broker, but there's no fees involved. We'll pay the normal closing costs at the title company, and we're going to handle all the paperwork. So even if you've never sold a home before in your life, I'm going to make it as easy as I can for you. Basically, I have a very simple contract. We'll sign that. We take over from there, and all you have to worry about is getting whatever out you want out of the house, and, moving on. Yeah.
Do I need to make any repairs before selling my house?
Absolutely not. Not unless you want to, but I would say 99.9% of the people don't. I'm going to buy it again in as-is condition. So you don't have to make a single repair. You don't have to clean a single thing. I've had houses that have had a couple things in it to houses that have been filled floor to ceiling. Yards totally full. It could be anything. You do as much or as little work to the house as you want prior to, but most people just want to sell it as it sits. Yeah. So, I mean, my goal is to make it as simple as possible, get you as much money for the house as possible, and then kind of create a win-win, and then we move forward. Yeah.
How quickly can I sell my house to Evervest Home Buyers?
How quickly can you sell your house to Evervest Home Buyers? Well, I've done it in a few days. Typically, I would say the quickest I like to do it, I will do it quicker, is 7 days, and that's only because I want to give my title company enough time to do their due diligence and not have to, cause too much trouble for them. So as long as there's clear title, it can be 7 days. But again, I'm okay with 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, as long as I know I have a contract in place. I basically, in essence, just like everybody, I budget for it. So I set the money aside. I know when that day comes, I'm ready to go. And then we keep in contact. We'll handle the paperwork accordingly with the title company. I work with a great title company here in town, so if anything pops up on title, they do a phenomenal job of cleaning it up. Yeah.
Can I sell a home if it has bad tenants?
Yes, you can sell a home if it has bad tenants. I personally would prefer the tenants not to be in there, but I'll take over the headache. That's not a problem. I'll usually with that situation, I'm going to ask you a few questions about them. I want to know how far behind they are. If there's any, sometimes they can be aggressive, right?
Like define bad.
Yeah,
is the
right,
question.
absolutely. Yeah, but I'll take it over. I mean, if they're only a little behind, I might take it over and try to work with the tenant to try to keep them in the house if I can. And if I can't, I'll have to deal with it differently. Whether that's, a lot of times I'll just go to the door and I'll talk to them and I'll try what's called a cash for keys. Hey, I'll give you some money if you're out by a week or 2 weeks or whatever. The money's yours. If not, I might have to go to court. That process might take a while, but you would just be selling the house as it sits. You won't have to deal with them anymore. You don't have to deal with the tenants. You just kind of deal with me. We close, and then it's my problem, my headache, and you're done.
Nice.
Yeah, can't be made easier than that,
No.
right? Yeah.
What if my house is in poor condition?
If your house is in poor condition, that's okay. That's kind of my wheelhouse is, a house that needs updates, and it's easy to do. We've all been there. If you're in a house for 30 years and you're comfortable, and maybe you didn't update the kitchen, but it's functional, right? As long as you're happy in your home. But when that time comes and when you sell your house, you could sell it to someone like me. I'll come in and fix it up, and then I'll sell it to somebody. And our goal is to buy it and fix it up. We're going to tee it out and then sell it to homeowners so they don't have any problems. But as far as you go, all you need to do is, call me up. I'm going to give you a fair price for that house. And then the headaches are mine, But yeah, absolutely.
Can I sell my house for cash during a divorce?
Yes, you can. Yeah, it's a huge load off, right? I'm not a lawyer, so I can say that I would be willing to buy a house in a divorce. I'm sure all divorces are different. Some are friendly, some are not. I'm going to have to assume if it's titled in both husband and wife at that point in time, they would have to agree. Lawyers would have to agree. Courts would have to agree.
Sure.
But yeah, I would be more than interested in buying a home in that situation. Yes.
What if I'm moving out of town and I just really need to sell quickly?
Well, that's not a problem for us. We can close, it's, 3 to 7 days. Depends how quick. Some people say quick. They mean 3 days, they mean 7 days. Some people mean 30 days. But
Sure.
I'm extremely flexible on the timeline. After buying it, I'm going to buy it for cash. And really all that cash means, people hear cash. I'm not showing up with a suitcase of cash. All it really means is there's no financing contingency.
Right.
But I'm going to buy it as is. I'm not going to ask you to make any repairs, offer any inspections. There's no real estate fees. I am a licensed broker. There's no fees. You don't have to clean it out if you don't want. But quick's fine. I'm set up for it. We've been doing it a long time, and our finances are in place to move as soon as we have clear title from the title company. Yeah.
How does a cash as-is home buyer determine the value of a home?
Okay, so I can't speak for other guys. I determine the value of a home I have decades of experience in construction. And I could bore you with everything I've done in my life, but I have a lot of experience. So I'm going to walk through the house, get a feel for what the house needs. After I have that, and a lot of times I'll do my homework before I get there. I'm going to determine the value of that home after I fix it up to its full value, like after repaired value. Unless it's a home that would be, more conducive to being used as a rental property, in which case I have to determine what I could rent it for and what it would cost to get there. Then after I do that, I determine the rehab costs. I determine kind of our holding costs. Obviously, we need to make a small profit in there, keep our lights on, right?
Sure.
But we're very reasonable. And then I come up with a number from that. So it's not like I just say, hey, if this house was fixed up, it's worth 150. I'm going to offer them some low ball number. Everybody always says, that they think I'm going to steal that house. And in my profession, I understand that because there are guys in my profession that want to do that. I just want to give you a fair price and give us a fair price, kind of create that, that win-win situation, something that makes sense for both of us, that gives me the opportunity to fix up the house, sell it to somebody, whether that's first-time home buyers or, someone that's looking for maybe their last house. But, I'm looking to give them an updated, nice, pretty house that they don't have to worry about once they move in. And after I do that, I mean, my price to you, that's kind of how I come about it. I think I answered the question.
You did.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not an easy task.
No, it's different. Every situation is different. I'm not looking, if I had a house that was worth a certain amount of money and you said, hey, I've had situations where someone would say, I want $130,000 for my house. I might run my numbers and say, believe it or not, I might say, well, my numbers tell me I can give you 140 or I can give you 145. I'll tell you that number because that number still works for me. You're happy, and hopefully down the line you tell somebody about me, right? But I'm looking to be as fair as possible. It just has to be fair for both of us.
Understood.
Yeah.
What is my obligation if I request an offer from Evervest Home Buyers?
Well, there's not a huge amount. I mean, initially you got to let me walk through the home. I get people sometimes that call me and they want me to make them an offer over the phone, and I can do that. But when I do that, I have to assume the worst in everything. If you want a fair, as high a price offer as I can get, I got to walk through the home. And I do know that some of my competitions make offers over the phone. But their offers over the phone usually aren't, I don't know, it's like the old saying, if it's too good to be true, it usually is. I think in most cases in that situation it is, because it's usually contingent, and then they renegotiate the price down the line. I like to walk through the home. Your obligation at that point is to listen to me. We need to find out exactly what you're trying to accomplish. Once I come up with that scenario, I'll make you an offer. At that point, if you have stuff in the home, your obligation is basically just to get whatever out you want to get out. You can leave the rest. We'll take care of it. We're going to buy the house, for cash. We're buying it as is. You have to make any repairs. You have to, offer any more inspections beyond what I already did. And my inspection process is just walking through the house with you, getting a feel for you as we're walking through the house, what you want to accomplish, and looking at it. I'm not micromanage. I'm not looking at every minute detail of the home. I have a pretty good idea when I look at it, what we're doing. And then you have to show up at closing. And I do require clear title. Everybody does. That's not specific to me. Everybody does. And all that really means is the title company that we're going to handle all the paperwork for and we're going to pay for is going to do their due diligence to find anything that's tied to the house. Might be an old loan, might be something like that. Make sure all that's clean so that when they sell it to me, excuse me, I don't have to worry about cleaning up title.
Right.
But you have very little. Show us the house, clean out the house to what the extent that you want, and show up at closing.
And leave.
That's simple.
And
Yeah.
leave the house.
And leave. Yeah, right. In theory, we could work out something where you could stay in the house a little after closing if you so choose.
Yeah.
Most people just sell and go on to whatever the next stage of their life is.
Sure. It's a transition.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Can I sell an inherited house to Evervest Home Buyers?
Yeah, absolutely. You can sell an inherited house. Inherited house, people get them a lot of different ways. If they've gotten them through probate and they're cleared to sell, if it's in a living trust, if a beneficiary deed was filed, but absolutely, I would say a lot of people do that. It makes it a lot easier for people because a lot of times there might be a lot of people that are, a lot of siblings or wives or grandkids that can inherit money out of the house. and selling it to one person. And a lot of times they might be scattered all over the country, right? There might be, I've had them 6, 14 kids. And if you sell, and they might be one person in town, so they sell there, the money gets dispersed from the title company, and I've been asked this a lot, so it can get dispersed directly to, after it's determined, to each person. It doesn't have to go through one person and then get, so they can actually work out something where it can get wired straight to them. But selling an inherited home a lot of times is the simplest, easiest way to convert that into cash. If it's a beautiful home and it's fixed up nice, it might make more sense to list it with an agent. Honestly, you might get more money that way. And if that's the case, you can still call us. We have very trusted partners that we work with, that we could list the home for you, and we can go from there. Yeah. But
Seems like whatever works best for them.
whatever works best for them. My suggestion is, if it's in great shape, maybe you should list it. If it needs some work, if it needs a lot of work, I'd love to at least talk with you, have that conversation, and see if we can help you out.
What if my house has code violations?
Most of the houses we buy probably do to some extent, whether they've been caught or not. Code violations are fine. That's kind of my wheelhouse. Again, we're going to come in and fix up the house and totally update it. So if it does have a code violation on your side, you just sell it to us and we'll deal with it. Every municipality is different. Counties are different too, but we'll pull out the necessary permits or whatnot to get that stuff taken care of.
Can I sell a house that has water or fire damage?
Yeah, we do it all the time. Water and fire damage, we'll have it remediated and then we'll rehab it. A lot of times we'll have to gut them and start over from scratch. It can be a dirty job, so if you're in that situation. And, interestingly enough, a lot of times what people will do, depending on their insurance policy, so let's say you had a fire or you had water damage and the house is being considered a total, right? We just did one down in the city a couple months ago. It was a fire-damaged home. They acquired the insurance money necessary to fix up the home, and what they chose to do was get the cash value payment from the insurance company, and then they turned around and sold it to us. And when they figured out that the cash value plus what we sell, they were much better off than fixing up the house, waiting for the house to be, livable, and then moving back in. They just basically took the money from both sides, took the money and got a new home and moved on. And it was kind of a win for them. It was a win for us. We came in, we gutted it, rehabbed it, and now it's a beautiful home. Yeah.
Perfect conclusions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How do I get started selling my house to Evervest Home Buyers?
How do you get started? But you can call me up or contact me online. We'll have about, honestly, I'd say my average phone call initially is somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. I'm going to ask me a few things about the house. Mostly I'm going to ask you about the general layout of the house. I'm going to ask you about what you're trying to accomplish time frame wise. If there's other people involved, and then you'll give me a general feel for the condition of the house. At that point, I'll know whether it's worth your time and mine to come out and take a look and move any further. And if it's not, I'll be honest. Like if you call me up and you have a beautiful home that could be listed on the MLS and you want top dollar for it, listing it with the real estate agent makes more sense than selling it to someone like me. And we can help with that. It's approached differently, obviously. It's going to get listed on the MLS versus me just coming in, taking a look at it and saying, okay, running my numbers and saying, okay, this is what I can pay, for kind of a nice, clean, no headache offer versus going through the headaches of the traditional sale. Yeah.
If it's my primary residence or it's a rental, does it matter? I mean, can I sell a rental?
Oh, absolutely.
Evervest?
People sell rentals that are vacant, whether that landlord's in town or out of town. If you have tenants in it, you can sell it that way too.
Can I sell it for cash?
You
like
absolutely
that?
sell it for cash.
Cool.
Yeah. So you're going to sell it same. It's going to be, it's as is, no repairs, no inspections. You don't have to pay any real estate fees. There's no Contingencies, aside from the fact that there's a little bit more paperwork, because obviously I'm going to want a copy of the lease with the existing tenants, their contact info. I'm going to want to know whether they're, the current on their rent, what kind of tenant I'm dealing with. But yeah, a lot of times people will do that. We might even talk over the phone for a little bit, and I'll give you an idea over the phone, or maybe I'll do a drive-by. The tenants won't even know. I'll say, hey, my price is in this range. Does it make sense for you? Mm-hmm. And if it does, and they don't even let their tenants know because they don't want to spook their tenants. And at that point in time, if it makes sense, then we set up a time to go look, and I'll walk through the inside of the house, give them a price. They'll let their tenants know what their thoughts are at that point. But, one of the things people run into is they're like, they've had this house for 20 years. They have tenants. They're great tenants. The tenants have been there 10 years. They don't want to scare them, right? So they will wait until they know that they are going to sell before. Because, for one, sometimes if you tell a tenant that you're going to sell the house, they might think they have to move. And maybe you end up not selling the house, but at that point in time, the tenant may stop paying rent. Just kind of causes that problem. So sometimes you might like to know that you're going to do it 100% before you go spooking your tenant.
Is that something you help with, the seller?
Yeah.
Do you help them walk through that process?
Yeah, I'll help them as much as I can. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Why should anyone trust Evervest Home Buyers?
Why should anybody? Well, I consider myself a very honest, loyal, straightforward person. Hopefully it comes through in this video. If it's not, I'm kind of a no, I kind of tell it as it is. I'll tell you, I'm not rude. I'm very confidential. I'm very loyal. That's kind of like one of my things. But if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. My competition, that's not necessarily always the case. There are companies out there, obviously, that are very forthright. Our company is very straightforward. I believe that kind of my word's my bond. If I tell you I'm going to close, I'm going to close. The only reason I won't close is if you can't give me clear title to the house. If there's some kind of title issue which would keep you from being able to sell it. Title company that we work with is a great title company. They're going to do their best to clean up any title. And if not, at the very least, you would get educated as into what you could do to have that title cleaned up. If that's possible. I've run across a couple situations in the homes we've bought where they've not been able to, and the house was in a situation where it just couldn't be sold basically ever, which is unfortunate. But yeah.
So let's say I'm trying to sell my home for cash as is. Can you help me with what kind of questions should I ask investors or buyers?
Sure.
What's important to ask so I know that I'm doing the process correctly? Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously listen to what you get a feel for who you think we are. If you think we're honest, for one. There's a little confusion in people hear cash or they hear as is, right? And honestly, there's certain things that everybody in my business is usually going to say. They're going to say, we're paying cash. They're going to say, we're buying it as is. They're going to say, we'll pay the normal closing costs. We're all going to kind of say that we're not, you're not going to pay any real estate fees. Where it gets a little hairy a lot of times is like contingencies. So, most people know what contingencies are, but if you don't know what a contingency is, it's basically in the contract. They're going to say, hey, I'm going to buy your house. It's going to have all those kind of terms we talked about, but there's going to be a caveat to it. It's basically going to be, but I got to do some inspections first, or I have to talk to my partner, or I have a financing contingency, where I got to make sure my bank's willing to pay or to give me the money to buy it. And a lot of times, unfortunately, those are used as a tool to renegotiate with that person. So they may agree to pay a certain price, and then they may have this inspector come out, and then kind of the tone changes. They're like real nice at the front end, and on the back end, they might. I had somebody did this recently, and they entered into a contract with a company that had stated this, and they basically said the tone all changed. And like, does this really sound like the house you portrayed to us? And then they started hitting up with all these things that need to be fixed, where if you were talking with me, I would have walked through the house. I would have seen the ones that are important to me, and my price would have reflected that up front, so you know what you're dealing with as opposed to renegotiating that with me down the line. So in other words, I might have offered you $150,000 for your house. You might be planning on that money to move to another house, and within a week or two of you thinking you're going to close with me, I might come back to you and say, oh no, I got to pay $20,000 or $30,000 less. You're expecting the money, and now you're not going to get it. But there's more pressure on you now, right? I find that approach extremely unethical. We don't do that. So I'm going to make you an offer. That's going to be my offer. We'll handle all the paperwork, and we'll just go to closing. And you just worry about getting out of the house what you need to get out of the house, and know you're going to close. Yeah.
What happens? I try to sell my house. I get caught up in these situations with contingencies, and am I stuck? Can I call Evervest Home Buyers, or am I stuck? Can I just not sell my house?
You can call us. I mean, that'd be a hard thing for me to answer. In the fact that contingencies are all phrased differently. There might be time frames involved. If there's a time frame involved and you're still under that time frame, technically you can't enter into two contracts at once, right? If they say we got to come down in a price, if you're stuck in a contingency or whatever that case may be, if it's a financing contingency and it goes past the deadline of the financing contingency, then yes, you could. But if it was a contingent on something like inspections and you were within that time frame of the contingency, you can both mutually agree in writing to void the contract, and at that point in time, you would be free to sell it again. But if you were actually under contract and within the time frame of the contingency, you could have me come out and take a look at it, and I could tell you what I could do, but you couldn't enter into a contract with me until that contract was null and void.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be on the up and up, right?
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. And you don't want to enter into something that could cause, problems with lawyers later.
Yeah, well, it should always be in good faith, and it should always be good for everyone.
Yeah.
That's the world we should live in.
Yeah, I mean, we all should do what we say we should do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we should do, right?
And then consider the mutually beneficial aspects of everything we do.
Yeah. Well, we live in an interesting world, right? So as years have gone by, there's a lot more online now, right? So if you get a bad name, that can spread like wildfire, right?
Yes.
I mean, I implore everybody out there, I mean, go look at people's, Better Business Bureau rating, right?
Sure.
Or their Google review rating. I mean, that can tell you a lot. Ours is A+ at this point. I'm an A+ rating, and I have a 5-star with Google. So we work very hard to keep that. And I think everybody should, but, you can do your due diligence. It's pretty easy.
You got to earn
days.
it.
All you need is a phone, right?
You don't just get it.
Yeah.
You have to actually earn it.
Right. That's true.
That makes sense. And you guys have.
I appreciate that. Yeah, we have.
It's the long term.
Yeah.
And there's a difference, I think a differentiator for you and Evervest Home Buyers is that you guys are in the long game. You're in the long term, not to get in and get out and make a buck.
Right.
Yeah, you're building an experience that will be lifetimes for people.
Yeah.
And I think that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for swinging by. A great conversation.
Yeah.
Again, reach out again, check us out. This is Hexen Studios. I'm here with Scott Dolson at Evervest Home Buyers. We'll see you next time.